So here we are, our very first lesson today, and we're going to be doing the pick, how to hold a pick. Now you might be a bit nervous because this is day one of this whole course. Just need to relax, it's going to be heaps of fun, and we should get through this stuff really quickly. So, the guitar pick. Firstly, why should we have a pick? A lot of people don't use one because they really basically don't know how to hold one, and maybe they've gotten by just by playing with their fingers, or they've had a go at playing with one and it's just been a complete disaster and feels quite uncomfortable and unnatural. So I'm going to clear up a few of those issues for you. But also there's some reasons that it's worthwhile to play with a pick. Anyone can play without a pick, so during this we're going to actually learn to play with one, and it's going to be worthwhile. It's just going to be a few little steps to learn and we'll be fine. The other thing is when we play, the reason we want to play with a pick is it's the cool sound quality basically. We get a nice shing from it. If I play without the strings, without the pick, sorry, it's still a nice sound, nice warm sound, quite a nice bassy sound, but if I throw a pick in there, I get a lot of the bass and the high mid frequencies out. Different quality happens with the sound of the strum. And also when it comes to picking individual notes, if I try and pick without a guitar pick, picking one string, not that accurate, but with a pick, and I can get quite fast because down and up strokes are really efficient. So there's some cool reasons to use a pick. So the other question that people ask me is what sort of pick should I use? And it's really up to you, but if you are a beginner, I suggest starting with a pick that's really flexible. So a thin pick would be good. Not too thin so that you can't feel it in your hands, but enough so that you can feel it against the strings. If you go too heavy, too hard, it'll be quite hard to pick up quickly. So start off, if you are a beginner, with something quite flexible. The one I'm using today is a 0.5mm pick, and it's got a lot of give. You can see the lot of give there, very flexible. A harder pick would be very, very hard to use. I'll show you an example now of a harder pick. Now this one's a 1mm pick, and it's not so hard. I'm pushing as hard as I can here, and I'm getting a little bit of flexibility, but there's a little bit of give, but not a lot. Those are the ones I prefer to use now, but you need to progress up to a harder pick. I suggest starting with something a little bit thinner to start with. So when people play with a pick initially, they hold it like a pen, and that's completely wrong for what we want to do when we're holding the pick. When you hold it like a pen, your thumb is pointing down the line of the center of the pick, and your fingers are pointing down the line of the pick. So everything's facing towards the end of the pick. So what that means is when we go to play the guitar itself, that's what that looks like. When we go to play the guitar, we have this sort of peacock, sort of a bird head thing happening with our right hand, and our wrist is way up in the air, and it's just really uncomfortable on the strings. But intuitively, that's how we think we should hold a pick. And that's completely wrong. And that's the reason a lot of people don't play with a pick. I'm going to show you now the perfect way to do that. The first step is your thumb. Your thumb is to go in the center of the pick, right across the middle of the pick. And you can see it goes beyond the pick as well. So it's right like that. I'll show you another angle. So there's the pick, I've got my thumb placed right in the center of the pick, and it goes beyond the pick. It's not back here, it goes beyond. It's really important that happens. It's got to go right across, so it ends up stuck in the middle of the thumb. Now, it doesn't matter how big your thumb is, you just plonk it right in the middle of that pick. So you'll have the same amount at the top and the bottom of the pick showing. So that's step one, the thumb. The second step is the index finger. The index finger, naturally when we pick things up, we use the flesh or the inside of our index finger. We're going to use the side of the finger. So you're going to place it on the side closest to the nail, down the middle of the pick. And it's pointing directly to the pointy end of the pick. So it's the side of the finger holding it against the thumb. Now the next step is to fan the fingers out in a relaxed manner. So you don't want to have your hand all bundled up tight, nice and relaxed. And then once you've got that going on, put your little finger on the guitar, and that'll line up your right hand perfectly in line with your elbow. So your thumb and your knuckle of your thumb and your wrist bone and your elbow are all in one line. You're going to draw an imaginary line looking down from my position. I can see a perfect line down there. So when I go to strum the guitar, the pick is facing the strings and my thumb is sort of pointing down the neck of the guitar. Maybe in a slight angle, but pretty much that's what's going on. That is the perfect place to hold a pick. Now it might take a few times over and over and over to get that and just adjust because you're in the natural habit of not playing that way. And it will move around a lot when you play. That's normal. Just keep adjusting as you play and get it back into position with your other fingers and make sure that that is what's going on. Thumb across, inside of the finger pointing down, fingers fanned out. So that's pretty much it. 3 steps and you're holding the pick correctly. You will have to adjust and correct that as you go. That's kind of normal, but just persevere with it because it really is worthwhile being able to pick correctly and strum correctly holding a pick. It's just a cool tool to have in your toolbox. We'll still play with our fingers every now and again, but it's just one of those nice things to have.